All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're dissecting exactly how and why businesses change their depreciation methods. Specifically, we're going to look at the mechanics of moving from the straight-line method to the written-down value method, and vice versa. But the real meat of our discussion? We're going to completely unpack the specific accounting treatment behind making that switch.
So imagine you buy a brand new truck to transport goods. On day one, you've got a crystal clear idea of its daily routine. But what happens to its accounting treatment if the nature of its daily workload drastically, completely shifts? I mean, you can't just pretend the wear and tear is exactly the same as your original estimate, right?
Think about this scenario for a second. A delivery truck carrying nothing but light, fluffy toys is only going to need steady, predictable depreciation. It's the perfect candidate for the straight-line method, or SLM. But the absolute second that same truck starts hauling heavy metals, it's going to wear out way faster. Suddenly, you desperately need front-loaded depreciation, which means switching to the written-down value method, or WDV.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. First, why change methods? Second, the rules of the switch. Third, treatment from SLM to WDV. Fourth, treatment from WDV to SLM. And finally, the impact on financial statements.
Starting with Section 1, Why Change Methods? Let's look at the legitimate reasons for actually making this switch.
So before we crunch any numbers, we really need to set up the legal and theoretical boundaries here. Because, let's be honest, you can't just swap methods on a whim to artificially massage your profits. According to the source material, management should be reviewing their asset use annually, and they can only legally switch methods if it hits one of these very specific criteria. Usually, it's either required by law, dictated by an accounting standard, it leads to a much better presentation of the financial statements, or, and this is a big one, there is a significant change in the expected pattern of future economic benefits, just like our delivery truck scoring a brand new heavy-duty hauling contract.
Moving on to Section 2, the rules of the switch. What are the boundaries of these accounting standard changes?
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding how we implement this switch without totally breaking the company's historical financial records. We have to follow the accounting standards by the book. So, as per Accounting Standard 1, a change in depreciation method is treated purely as a change in accounting estimate. And what does that mean? It means we use prospective application. Essentially, we forget the past. We only look forward. We absolutely do not go back and retrospectively recalculate the last 3 years of financials. We just draw a hard line in the sand today. All right, Section 3, Treatment from SLM to WDV. Let's talk about hitting the reset button on your asset.
Now we get to see the actual accounting treatment in action. To make the math totally plug and play, you really just need to think of this three-step process as hitting a giant reset button on your asset. First, you calculate the book value right before the change. Second, you calculate the remaining useful life. And third, you apply the new method to those revised figures. Basically, you're treating the asset as if you literally just bought it today, right at its current book value.
Let's look at our toy truck example from the sources to ground us. We started with an original cost of 11 lakhs. After 3 years of steady 1 lakh depreciation deductions under SLM, we landed a brand new base cost, or book value, of 8 lakhs exactly on the date of the change. So 8 lakhs is our new starting line. But here's the puzzle. With WDV, you need a percentage rate to actually calculate the depreciation, right? But since we're starting totally fresh with a new book value and a much shorter lifespan, how on earth do we calculate that tricky WDV percentage rate for the rest of the truck's heavy-duty life?
Well, the sources give us this specific modified formula. Now I know it looks a bit complex, but it's really just a clever adjustment of the standard rate formula. The whole trick is replacing the original cost with our new book value and swapping out the total life for only the remaining useful life for our end value. So, by plugging in our 8 lakh new book value, a 1 lakh scrap value, and the 7 remaining years into that formula, boom, it gives us a brand new highly front-loaded depreciation rate of 25.7%. Moving forward, we just apply this 25.7% to the reducing balance every single year.
Let's shift gears. Section 4, Treatment from WDV to SLM. Let's look at steadying the ship.
Okay, now let's completely flip the script. What's the exact accounting treatment for moving from a front-loaded WDV method back to a steady SLM? This actually happens quite a bit when an asset's usage finally stabilizes over time. Well, the good news is we use the exact same universal 3-step reset process we just learned. We find the book value, we assess the remaining life, and we apply the new method. The only real difference is how we apply the math at the very end, since SLM is just a flat calculation.
In a source's second illustration, imagine a company bought an asset for 7 locks and ran it through 4 years of aggressive 15% WDV reductions. If you subtract all that accumulated depreciation, it brings us to a new baseline book value of roughly $365,000 on the exact date of the method switch.
And here's the best part. Instead of wrestling with a complex root formula like we did with WDV, jumping back to SLM is incredibly straightforward. The accounting treatment is simple. You just take that new current book value, subtract whatever scrap value is left, and divide it by the reassessed remaining years.
So in this example, the asset had 6 years of useful life remaining and 0 scrap value. So $365,000 divided by 6 gives us a perfectly steady, predictable $60,900 in annual depreciation going forward. We have effectively steadied the ship.
Let's bring it all home with Section 5, Impact on Financial Statements. Let's take a macro view of method switching. Because here's the thing, changing your depreciation isn't just some abstract math exercise. It directly changes your reported profitability and heavily impacts the macro health of your financials. Continuously contrasting these two, the sources highlight a really fundamental difference. WDV is going to hit your profit and loss statement much harder initially because of those massive upfront expenses, but it leaves a stronger, much more realistic asset position on your balance sheet toward the end of its life. SLM is the exact opposite. You get smooth, happy profits early on, but it aggressively erodes the asset's book value near the end.
Think about the immediate financial shock of making this switch. In our first truck scenario, moving to WDV in that transition year caused the depreciation expense to more than double. That instantly shrinks the company's stated profit for that year, just to reflect the heavy usage. If you're an investor looking at those books, that sudden drop in profit would be pretty terrifying if you didn't know exactly why it happened. And that exact financial shock is exactly why the footnotes of financial statements are so incredibly vital. Accounting Standard 1 mandates that you must disclose this quantified effect. Stakeholders have to read that footnote to understand that, hey, profits didn't drop because sales were terrible. They dropped because the accounting treatment changed to accurately match the truck's new heavy-duty reality.
So whether you're reviewing your own operations or analyzing the financial statements of other companies, when was the last time you hit the reset button? Have you checked if the depreciation method actually matches the physical day-to-day reality of the asset? Are your methods telling the truth, or are they hiding the true value of your assets? Definitely something to think about.